Welcome to the Unpause Your Dreams podcast, the show where dreams aren't just visions, they're the reality we're here to help you craft. I'm Charlene Ridley, your guide on this transformative journey. Each episode will delve into the art of dreaming big, the power of perseverance, and the strategies to turn aspirations into tangible accomplishments. Whether you've put your dreams on the back burner or feel stuck in the what's next, together we'll hit play on your potential. So dreamers, innovators, and go-getters, let's dive in and unpause your dreams so that you can live now. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Unpause Your Dreams podcast. I'm your host, Charlene Ridley, and I am a dream development coach. For those of you that don't know what that means, let's make it simple. I help people realize their someday career or business dreams and make them right now realities. We are coming to you from the Unpause Your Dreams creative studio here in Charlotte, North Carolina. This is one of the dreams that I've most recently unpaused for my own life. And I'm so excited to be sitting here in a space that I have created for other people to record their podcast, finally recording my podcast and speaking to you. This is episode 6. I'm so incredibly grateful for all of you who have listened in and have already given your comments and your feedback, who have downloaded and who have subscribed. I'm so excited and thankful for you that you are along on this journey with me. I hope that you will share this podcast with someone else and that we will continue to grow and that we can reach my personal goal of impacting 1 million people and helping 1 million people unpause their dreams. Today's topic is something that is so important to talk about, particularly as we are talking about unpausing your dreams. Today's episode is about overcoming fear. Fear is one of the biggest reasons that people don't get started in pursuing their dreams. It is one of the reasons that sometimes people don't even dare to dream. And so I hope by the end of this episode that you will have 2 tips and tools that will help you unpause your dreams and understand and change your relationship with fear. I'm going to give you some practical tips and some things that you can walk away with, some action items that you are able to do today to start to change that relationship with fear. Let's jump right in. When I think about fear, I think about my personal relationship with fear. Many times people will think because I am actually a serial entrepreneur, because I have the courage to lead corporate America, because I coach other people in their businesses, because I'm an Airbnb investor, a speaker, a podcaster, all of the things, right? Because we all know that I'm a multi-passionate person. But because I do all of these things, people have an assumption that I don't have any fear. And it's simply not true. And as a matter of fact, one of the really interesting things that I'm learning in having this creative studio here in Charlotte, North Carolina, where women entrepreneurs gather together and come in and do some of the events like the Bites, Brains, and Business Building workshop that we do once a month, where entrepreneurs come to the table and sit down and discuss the challenges that they are facing in their personal life and also that they are facing in their business. One thing that I'm realizing is that every single person that you see doing anything that you think is remarkable or inspirational has fear. The thing is that they are not letting the fear stop them. And how that happens is simply by changing your relationship with fear. So I want to start by saying lots of times we think, okay, I have to overcome fear. When I think of overcoming something, I think of building a bridge and literally getting over it. But I don't think that's ever the case with fear. I think that rather we should be focused on changing our relationship with fear so that we can feel fear, we accept that fear is going to exist, but we can do whatever it is that we're up to anyway. So one practical tip that works for me in doing this, because again, people think that I don't feel fear, but I do. Even at this current point in my life, I've just recently, 4 months ago, opened the Unpause Your Dreams Creative Studio. I shared with you a little bit about that journey in episodes 1 through 5. So if you haven't already listened, I encourage you to go back and catch up so that you are a part of the conversation and also know the backstory. But in my journey to open my first brick and mortar business, right, there's a lot of things that come up. I know how to be an employee, right? In my opinion, I've mastered corporate America. I've done very well. I've climbed the corporate ladder. I have been able to command very large salaries, incredible salaries. I've received incredible bonuses. I have really become a high performing person in the corporate arena. Right. So I feel very comfortable there. In my coaching practice, I've been coaching since 2016. I feel incredibly comfortable coaching. I am confident in my skill set to be able to sit down across the table from someone and listen to them, really hear them, see them, and help them connect the dots to uncover what it is that's blocking them, and then put a plan into place so that they can realize their dreams. I'm really confident in that. I do that. I've got that. Okay. But when it comes to brick and mortar business, I'm not so confident in that, right? I'm just starting out. There's lots of things that I need to know. The old movie, and I know that I'm dating myself, but for those of you that don't know, I'm in my 40s. There's a movie called Field of Dreams that I watched when I grew up. And I remember them saying, if you build it, they will come. Guess what, guys? If you build it, they will not come. If you market it well, they will. And that is one of the biggest learnings that I've had in the 4 months of being open in the Unpause Your Dreams Creative Studio. And with that, I've had to understand that I have a lot of fear around being the owner of a brick and mortar institution. I described it to my coach in my own coaching call because, yes, remember, I say all coaches should have coaches because the work that we are doing here is never done. And if you stop getting coached, then you purposefully stunt your ability to continue your growth and accelerate that growth in terms of moving to the next level. So, in one of my coaching calls with my coach, we were unpacking my fear. And I described it as feeling like I am juggling mini balls. On the one hand, I love like the excitement of being multi-passionate and doing all of the things that bring me joy. I love the fact that at one moment I may be managing my Airbnb. At another moment, I may be talking to a coaching client. At another moment, I may be talking about a speaking engagement and pitching myself for that particular engagement. I love that I can be here in the studio connecting with people or talking to people about an upcoming professional development workshop that they're planning and helping to bring their vision to life. I love that. But it does feel like I'm juggling a lot of balls. And with that, the way that I've described it is I feel this sense of terror in my body, right? And what does that mean? You can feel things on a very visceral level, right? In your body. I can feel mine in particular, I will feel in the back of my neck. I can feel in my shoulders, in my back, and I notice that my breathing changes, right? I'll start to hold my breath a little bit more, right? These are my physical indications of fear. And I'm terrified of dropping a ball, right? And the interesting part is I know that I'm new to this, right? I know that given the experience that I've had in getting to know other entrepreneurs or even coaching people as they're starting their business, that the space that I am in is not uncommon. It's not at all, right? We've all heard of entrepreneurs who have had trouble making payroll, who their financial forecast, they didn't meet the numbers as fast as they thought they were. We have heard entrepreneurs who have not known how to market, who have thrown incredible events and who have not been able to promote those events well and to fill those or sell out those events, right? We've heard of entrepreneurs that have, said that they wasted a ton of money doing different things that they thought were the right things to do when they got started in their business. The point is that we know that we've heard through just our exchanges and experience in the world that the entrepreneurial journey is a unique journey and that there's many opportunities for you to learn and grow. I happen to think this is why business coaching is so important because it helps you minimize risk and learn without having to experience those things and without having to waste the money that you may waste learning for yourself. And so in my entrepreneurial journey, I'm well aware of everything that I'm going through. For example, we're in month 4, and although my projection was that we would be at break even in month 3, we are not at break even, right? So that means that I am still paying out of pocket for some of the expenses of the studio on a monthly basis. Now, when I focus on those numbers, then I might feel like I'm a failure. I think I've shared this in another episode, and if not, I'll share it here. I had to readjust my focus and my perspective because when we did not hit break even in March as I projected, I could have very easily determined that I was a failure or that I had not succeeded. What I did not do is that. Remember, I've accepted that I am new to the entrepreneurial experience as it relates to a brick and mortar business. And I understand that in that learning period, there's going to be opportunity for me to realize things and to assess the information that I'm learning, right? That's why data is important, and to make different business decisions based on it. So, what I decided in terms of changing my perspective was that I would look at the number of women that we were serving. Because when I looked at the number of women we were serving, I felt really good about that, right? Because part of the work that I'm doing is altruistic, right? And I want to be able to have that impact in the community. And so it's not a numbers game, right? From a financial perspective, of course, the business needs to make sense. But from a motivation level, it makes sense to me when we are impacting the world. And so I had to change that perspective. But let's think about it and let's be really real, right? No one wants to think because your brain will then say, oh, that's great. We're serving these women. But what happens if 7 months from now, you're not yet at break even? And the balls that I felt like I was juggling, right? Or that I am juggling, then that's where the fear comes of dropping the ball. But first things first, we are very creative people and we will think about, imagine, and worry about things that have yet to come to fruition and may actually, in fact, never come to fruition. So that's the first thing. We have to control the thoughts that we're thinking. And I had to say, okay, Charlene, here's where you're at now. You don't know where you'll be in 7 months. We're not even looking 7 months down the line to say, oh my gosh, what if that happens? What we're going to do is we're going to look at the data, we're going to look at the information from this moment, and we're going to make business decisions on that data so that we continue moving forward. The second thing is I had to identify the fear. The fear is dropping the ball, right? Okay, so then how do you process through the fear once you've named it? Now, I want to be very clear. This is not fear of people. This is not fear of trauma. This is not fear of that level, right? Because there's a very different process and that involves therapy and some actual practices that you need to go through with the guided help of a professional in order to overcome those things or to process through them. I'm speaking specifically about fear that relates to taking on something new, to moving into the uncertainty, to pursuing a dream, to doing that sort of thing. So I had to face the fear. Okay, Charlene, what happens if a ball drops? And one thing I always tell my coaching clients is we work through it. right? We actually work through an exercise where we go through a fear scenario where we get to the bottom line, right? So, what's my fear? In my fear would be what can happen if I drop the ball? That means I cannot create the revenue to hit break even. Okay. So what does that mean? Right? This is the process. What does that mean? That means then that I may not be able to pay the expenses of the space. Okay. What does that mean? That means if I cannot personally carry the expenses of the space, then the space may close. Okay, well, what does that mean? Now we get to it. If the space were to close, what does that mean? Because behind every fear, right, there is a concern in your subconscious mind that you may die. That's just our physical programming, right? Fear is a response that is supposed to keep us safe, and it is directly related to well being and livelihood. Your subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between, okay, this is a fear, an emotional fear based on a perceived moment of or potential for failure, or this is an actual physical fear, right, where our life is in danger. So if we get to the bottom level, if the center has to close, I have to ask myself, what does that mean, Charlene? What does that mean for you? And then that's where you get to sit with it. Do I think that that means I'm going to be a failure? Do I worry about what people will think if that happens? Do I lament the amounts of money that I've spent on it and feel stupid about it? What is the final outcome? What is the underlying fear of me being afraid to drop the ball? And getting to deal with that, right? Because once you identify that underlying fear, for me, that underlying fear was the center closes, and then I feel like I've wasted a ton of money, right? Because I don't accept it as being failure because I've already changed my perspective to how many people we're serving. And even if the center closed today, the studio, not the center, I don't know why I keep saying center, but even if the studio closed today, I know that we have served close to 250 women in 4 months. That's 250 lives changed. That's 250 people that have connected, expanded their network, grown, been in possibility, been inspired, believed that they could, started a new thing, made business connections, right? I have no idea how large the ripple of 250 people or just under 250 people is. So there's no way that I would believe that I was a failure if the ball dropped and the center closed. So really, I got down to it and it was about money. And when I think through that, I'm like, okay, if it's about money, what conversations, what work do I need to do in my life to make me accept that, yes, that's a possibility. It's not the only possibility. But if that happens, if my worst case scenario fear is realized, how will I deal with it? How will I address it? And then I can implement my fear reaction strategy. And I think that's so important because when you know something in advance and you are prepared for it, right? Then you have the understanding that should it occur, that you will be okay. And at the end of the day, that's what your mind, your subconscious mind is trying to do. It's trying to make sure that you are safe and that you are secure. So if you can reconcile that by identifying that bottom line fear, for me, it was wasting money, right? And understanding that even if that happens, I am still safe and secure, right? And then reframing that situation to help you know, like, well, yeah, I may have spent money, but is it a waste? I've touched this number of lives, right? I've learned these lessons. I have demonstrated to myself that I can start a business, a brick or mortar business, right? And that I can actually have impact in the world. I can actually make money. Because here's the reality. Even if the studio does not break even. I have evidence that I've proven that I can make money doing something, selling a service in person to people because I'm doing it. Whether it is enough to break even or not is irrelevant. That would be me negating the experience that I am actually having, which is, wow, I have figured out a way and implemented that way to impact people and to make money doing that. So I'm a social entrepreneur. Wow, how cool is that? Let's deposit that to my confidence bank account. And if I haven't ever mentioned a confidence bank account in here before, let me tell you about it. The confidence bank account is really just think of it like your physical bank account. When we are up against something, most of the time when we stop instead of pushing through, it's because we haven't developed our resilience muscle, right? Our resilience muscle comes along with confidence. So when we go through the hard thing or the thing that's uncertain or the thing that we aren't even aware, right, that we have the capacity to endure, we have a new level of confidence. If you take that experience and deposit it to your confidence account, your confidence bank account, when you're up against something scary, uncertain, unfamiliar, any of those things in the future, you can go make a withdrawal from your confidence account. And you simply do that by going, oh, wait a minute. I remember that time when I was a little bit afraid or uncertain of opening a creative studio, and I did it and I succeeded because I impacted almost 250 women. Do you see how that changes? Right? Do you see how much better that feels than carrying the thought that, oh my gosh, I can't do this and I'm afraid. And what if, right? So much cleaner. It's so much easier to be in that space. And for me, just even in describing that scenario to you, I feel so much more relaxed in my body. So, really, really, really dig deep into the fear, work through the fear, find out what the underlying fear is, work through that, and process it. And then step three is to accept that a certain amount of fear is going to exist in your life. Yeah, it is. I know that you maybe don't want to hear that, right? Because ideally, if you're like me, anything like me, you might say, no, I never want to be afraid. Okay. But I will encourage you to think about a time that you were afraid to do something and that you did it anyway. And when it was done, you had that exhilarating feeling like, I did that. I did that. Those moments are incredible. And I encourage you to just take snippets of those moments, deposit those to your confidence account, because that is what you're striving to do. That's what we're all striving to do because we have to continue to push against, right? That boundary, that limit of fear in order to grow. Because staying where you are is very comfortable. And oftentimes, there's not a lot of uncertainty in staying where you're at, even if you're miserable, guys. I need you to hear me say this. You know how to be miserable. If you're miserable, you know how to be there. You're comfortable there. You know how to navigate that space no matter how discomforting it is, right? You find comfort in the discomfort. And so you know how to be in that space. But stepping outside of that is a little frightening because it's uncertain. You don't know how to navigate in that space. You're not sure what you should do. And so our natural reaction is to say, no, I'm not going to do that. But to grow in life, you have to really push forward into that uncertain space, into that fearful space, so that you're able to grow as a person, both personally and professionally. And if you are in the business of deciding that you are going to live your dreams and pursue them, you are going to have to accept that there's a certain amount of fear that is going to exist. This is a realization that I've had. There's a certain amount of fear that is going to exist as an entrepreneur. when I sit down and talk to my entrepreneur peers in my entrepreneurship circles, they all feel it. We all know. And navigating that space is becoming comfortable and accepting the fact that entrepreneurship is a different experience than many of us have faced before. But because it's different, it doesn't mean that it's bad. We don't need to assign value to it. We just get to say, okay, I accept that it's different, but I'm learning, I'm growing, and I can learn this and master this, just like I've mastered other areas of my life. I hope that this was incredibly beneficial to you, that you have learned at least 3 things that you can take away from this so that you're able to go and not overcome your fear, but accept your fear and process through it so that you can do the thing that you've been dreaming about doing anyway. I'm Charlene Ridley again, and I'm the host of Unpause Your Dreams podcast. If you have questions or comments, I encourage you again to go and connect with me on social media. You can find me on Instagram at I am Charlene Ridley, or you can find me on Facebook as Charlene Ridley. And you can also find me on LinkedIn, Charlene Ridley. If you're interested in having your own time in this podcast, if you're watching on YouTube, you can go to unpauseyourdreams.com and you can sign up either for hourly rental or for membership. In the meantime, I encourage you all, take the steps that are necessary to identify your fear, to process your fear, and to move through it so that you can dare to live now and unpause your dreams. Have a great week, guys. We'll see you next week. And there we have it. Another episode of Unpause Your Dreams comes to a close. I hope this episode inspires you to take action. Remember, even the smallest action taken daily brings you closer to achieving your dream. If today's episode resonates with you, please subscribe, leave a rating, and or a review. It helps us reach more dreamers like you. I'm Charlene Ridley, reminding you to never let your dreams stay paused. Keep dreaming, keep growing, and until next time, keep pressing play on your dreams.